Good afternoon, Keith Tebow from FRCMedia. Thank you for joining us on this Monday afternoon in first Monday of August. Unbelievable that we're already into August. You know, since we've started talking about the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic within our region, we've spent a lot of time talking about how it impacts business. And it's been a few weeks since we checked in with our business interest here in the South Coast. So pleased to be joined, as we have been many times, by Rick Kidder and Michael O'Sullivan, the co-CEOs of the One SouthCoast Chamber. Gentlemen, how are you? Welcome back.
Great, Keith. It's nice to see you.
It's good to be seen, as they say. Mike, let me just start with you. It's been about a month now since we have entered phase 3 of reopening here in the Commonwealth, a phase that the governor says we're going to be in for probably a long time until there's a vaccine. From your point of view, in terms of South Coast businesses, and we like to point to restaurants, more than other specific businesses. How have things shaped out? Are businesses adapting to this new normal? And what are you hearing from your members?
Adapting, the answer is definitely yes. They're adapting. Are they happy? Not all. Many are still struggling. But it's good news that it has moved along. But they are definitely adapting. For the restaurants, being able to have outdoor dining has helped a lot. But they're still struggling, and there's still great concern about what happens moving forward. Is there going to be a phase 2 of the virus and that sort of thing? People are cautiously optimistic.
And I know, Rick, in terms of some restaurants, some are allowed to provide seating indoors as well, yep. Although obviously with restrictions and limitations. Are you still hearing that some of those restaurants may be shying away from doing that because in some ways they're bringing people back and they're not able to serve as many people, so they may actually be losing some money? That makes sense?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the restaurant, because you're going to see that for some the numbers work and for some they don't. Where there's a particular challenge are the small restaurants where you have to have, you only have seating, say, for 30 as it is, and that's crammed into the place. Now, with the restrictions that they have and having to be 6 feet away, it almost makes it impossible for them to reopen. And if they don't have a parking area or someplace where they can extend into the street, they're likely to stay closed for indoor seating for some time.
Yeah. Also things that have opened since the beginning of July or second week of July has been the tourist attractions. I know we talked about, the Whaling Museum, Battleship, Children's Museum in Fall River, and other museums. Either one of you can answer this. How have they been faring, as far as in terms of, trying to get tourists back within our cities?
We're finding that people are coming back, but it's still very difficult because you still have the it's not just the business perspective, you also have the consumer perspective, and they're still a little concerned about going indoors and doing things. So there is still some concern about that, but the Children's Museum, Battleship Cove, they're really grateful to be open, and they're really trying to be creative and innovative and do more to help, but they're still, they still can't do all of their their group programs that they do during the summer. So it's still a struggle.
I think also, Keith, one of the things that we're seeing is that for a number of those attractions, they've been dependent on tourists who have come from farther than 50 miles, which is sort of the definition of a tourist. They've come more than 50 miles. And what we're seeing now is an awful lot more local folks are getting out and about and taking advantage of what were traditional tourism amenities. But you're getting a more local audience, and people are going from New Bedford to Fall River to Battleship Cove, from Fall River to New Bedford to the Whaling Museum, taking advantage of what's around us in ways that we sometimes ignore.
Yeah, and I know that sometimes when it comes to tourism and many of these museums and the Battleship and the like, is there's been third-party events that bring people in. You think of the feasts, right? The Madeira feast, which would have been, I believe, last week
Yes.
right, in New Bedford. You've got the feast, the Holy Ghost feast in Fall River. That brings a lot of people for that event in, and where, these other museums may catch a piece of that tourism pie as well. So that must be an extra hit, right, Rick?
It is an extra hit. One of the things that we are seeing for that is that that's affecting our hotels, because a lot of those events did bring in people from outside. Sometimes they stayed with family when they were here, but often would be staying in our hotels, and so it's affecting them adversely. We at the Chamber have tried to be incredibly creative. As you know, we put on Chowderfest each year. That would have been in October, and it would have been on the pier in New Bedford. We're actually turning it into a road show. So we're doing some really creative things so that we can keep those traditions alive and keep people going.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult this time of year. And, I've spoken to some people running for office. We had the opportunity to speak with some of the congressional candidates in the 4th Congressional District, northern part of Fall River, Joe Kennedy's seat. And I asked them all about how, the missed opportunity there is even for them to get out to these events. That's where they can, traditionally meet people, and they're having a difficult time meeting people. And I'm sure it's that cascading effect going down. Let me ask, Mike, let me ask you, in terms of moving forward, I guess we're sort of in a holding pattern in terms of reopening. I'm not sure if the governor of Massachusetts, the COVID numbers have gone up a little bit. I know in Rhode Island, Governor Raimondo announced last week that she was curtailing the number of participants in a gathering from 25 to 15 because of spikes in Rhode Island. I guess if things stay the same, Mike, what is it that maybe businesses can look forward to try to do some sort of growth as we continue to live through COVID?
Well, I think people need to be as creative as possible. And you really have to think outside the box. I know throughout the COVID pandemic, we've referred a lot to Merrill Manufacturing, but you got to be able to look outside of what you're doing right now and what can I change. Inside the Chamber, we're forced to do that as well. And there's many businesses that have been forced to do that. But that's not always a bad thing, because you can look at these challenges as opportunities, and opportunities are always a great thing. And if you can change and tweak and add to your business in the middle of a pandemic, you're going to come out of it bigger and stronger. So I think the more people that try to look creatively outside the box will still be successful.
Yeah. Rick, let me ask you this. There's still talk in Washington. Congress is still talking about coming up with another financial aid package. A lot of it has to do around unemployment benefits, because that extra $600 actually ran out on Friday. They want to try to extend that. I know there is some talk too about extending the PPP for businesses. Are you hearing, I guess, what are you hearing from members in terms of that need for any further assistance from any government entity?
I think at this point, nobody would deny that more assistance is necessary. And what we're seeing in Washington right now is sort of the typical Washington dance, where we're not disagreeing about whether or not there needs to be help. It's what's the nature of that help and how much is it? And so we had, and I think we'd talked on this show before about the challenge of the $600 stipend, and for some small businesses trying to get their people back. It was difficult when, quite frankly, they were doing better with that additional $600 than they were doing when they were working. But going from $600 to zero is falling off a cliff. So I think Congress they get that, and they're trying to figure out exactly what that formula should be so that you can incentivize people to go back to work while at the same time support those who are unemployed and are likely to be unemployed. The one thing we know for certain is that as much unemployment as has surfaced within the COVID environment, not all of those jobs are coming back. And since not all of those jobs are coming back, we're going to have a larger unemployment picture for quite some time. And people are going to need to survive in that process. So we know that Congress is working on it, but it's a bit of a pull and tug at the moment. And we'll figure it out quickly, I hope. because businesses need that assistance, individuals need that assistance, people on unemployment need some assistance as well.
Yeah, it's
You know,
definitely
Keith,
yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Keith, we also have some businesses that are actually struggling to hire people. You know, we've got one major employer in Fall River who has hired as many as 85 people, but still needs another 20 or 25 people, and they can't find them. Over the last couple months because people don't want to come back to work because of the $600 they were making more money. So there's a challenge on both sides in that respect. And to Rick's point, I do agree that we need to do something to go from $600 and phase it down to zero. But there are businesses that are still struggling to find people because many people didn't want to go back to work.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, as we wrap up, there's a couple of events this week for members, and you're actually going to be hearing from our two mayors in Fall River and New Bedford at special events this week. Rick, why don't you fill us in on some of those details?
Sure. We have two events coming up. We're calling it Two Great Mayors, Two Great Events. Mayor Coogan is going to be delivering his State of Business address. That will be taking place on Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning. You can register through our website at onesouthcoast.com. We're also going to be streaming it on our Facebook Live as well. And coming up on Thursday at 1 o'clock, Mayor Mitchell will be delivering his traditional State of the City address. Unlike Fall River, where the charter calls for the mayor of Fall River to deliver the State of the City address in the City Council chambers, in New Bedford, that's always been part of the chamber function. And we have always put on a good show for the mayor, and we're pleased that he was willing to do his State of the City with us on Thursday at 1. So we've got two great mayors. I can guarantee you that the State of Business, I can guarantee you that the State of the City is going to have a COVID tinge to it while they figure out all of the challenges ahead for them. But we have good leadership who lead optimistically, and I believe lead from the positive. So we're excited to produce those.
So that'll be very interesting as well. And you mentioned, Rick, before we started, there's also a fundraising event for the chamber. We'll probably talk between now and then, but in early September, your annual golf tournament, which may be of interest to some Fall River people.
Absolutely. We're going to be playing at Acushnet River Valley Golf Course in Acushnet. Our tournament is traditionally the day after Labor Day. We're trying to ease people back into their work post-summer. It's a great event, and this time we get to honor two incredible individuals. We always honor community heroes at this event, and one that we're honoring is Bill Eccles, who is the retired president and CEO of Bank 5, and we're also honoring Peter Muse, who is retiring this year as president and CEO of First Citizens Federal Credit Union. So we're excited about doing that. Golf is one of the few things that we can do. And so we can get a wonderful event with 100 golfers out there to have a terrific time and to honor these two great men.
All right. Michael O'Sullivan and Rick Kidder from the One SouthCoast Chamber. As always, gentlemen, thank you. And we'll talk again soon. I appreciate it.
Keith, thank you. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care. And I want to thank you for joining us as well here on FRC Media as we provide you with information to keep you up to date on all that's happening with COVID-19 and other issues in Fall River. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great day.